Random House Audiobooks presents Star Wars Rogue Planet by Greg Bear.
Rogue Planet. Anakin Skywalker stood in a long single-file line in an abandoned maintenance tunnel leading to the Wicco District garbage pit. With an impatient sigh, he hoisted his flimsy and tightly folded race wings by their leather harness and propped the broad rudder on the strap of his flight sandal. Then he leaned the wings against the wall of the tunnel and, tongue between his lips, applied the small glowing blade of a pocket welder to a crack in the left lateral brace. Repairs finished, he waggled the rotator experimentally. Smooth, though old. Just the week before, he had bought the wings from a former champion with a broken back. Anakin had worked his wonders in record time, so he could fly now in the very competition where the champion had ended his career. Anakin enjoyed the wrenching twist and bone-popping jerk of the race wings in flight. He savored the speed and the extreme difficulty, as some savor the beauty of the night sky, difficult enough to see on Coruscant with its eternal, planet-spanning city glow. He craved the competition, and even felt a thrill at the nervous stink of the contestants, scum and riffraff all. But above all, he loved winning. The garbage pit race was illegal, of course. The authorities on Coruscant tried to maintain the image of a staid and respectable metropolitan planet, capital of the Republic, center of law and civilization for tens of thousands of stellar systems. The truth was far otherwise, if one knew where to look, and Anakin instinctively knew where to look. He had, after all, been born and raised on Tatooine. Though he loved the Jedi training, stuffing himself into such tight philosophical garments was not easy. Anakin had suspected from the very beginning that on a world where 1,000 species and races met to palaver, there would be places of great fun. The tunnel master in charge of the race was a Naplausian, little more than a tangle of string-like tissues with 3 legs and a knotted nubbin of glittering wet eyes.
"First flight is away," it hissed as it walked in quick, graceful twirls down the narrow, smooth-walled tunnel.
The Naplausian spoke basic, except when it was angry, and then it simply smelled bad.
"Wings, up,"
it ordered. Anakin hefted his wings over his shoulders and cinched the harness he had cut down to fit the frame of a 12-year-old human boy. A voice spoke behind Anakin.
"You've raced here before."
Anakin had been aware of the blood carver in line behind him for some time. There were only a few hundred on all of Coruscant, and they had joined the Republic less than a century before. They were an impressive-looking people. Slender, graceful, with long 3-jointed limbs, small heads mounted on a high, thick neck, and iridescent gold skin. "Twice," Anakin said.
"And you?"
"Twice," the blood carver said amiably, then blinked and looked up. Across the blood carver's narrow face, his nose spread 2 fleshy flaps like a split shield, half hiding his wide, lipless mouth. The ornately tattooed nose flaps functioned both as a sensor of smell and a very sensitive ear, supplemented by 2 small pits behind his small, onyx-black eyes.
"You will probably die down there."
He spoke perfect basic, as if he had been brought up in the best schools on Coruscant.
"Thanks for the support," Anakin said, his face coloring. He hated being ragged, and he especially hated an opponent trying to psych him out. Fear, hatred, anger, the old trio Anakin fought every day of his life, though he revealed his deepest emotions to only one man, Obi-Wan Kenobi, his master in the Jedi Temple. The blood carver stooped slightly on his 3-jointed legs.
"You smell like a slave," he said softly for Anakin's ears alone. It was all Anakin could do to keep from throwing off his wings and going for the blood carver's long throat. He swallowed his emotions down into a private, cold place and stored them with the other dark things left over from Tatooine. The blood carver was correct, which stiffened Anakin's anger and made it harder to control himself. Both he and his mother, Shmi, had been slaves to the supercilious junk dealer Watto. When the Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn had won him from Watto, they had had to leave Shmi behind, something Anakin thought about every day of his life.
"You four next,"
the Tunnel Master hissed. Mace Windu strode down a narrow side hall in the main dormitory of the Jedi Temple, lost in thought, and was nearly bowled over by a trim young Jedi who dashed from a doorway. "Pardon me, Master," Obi-Wan Kenobi apologized, bowing quickly. "Clumsy of me." "In a hurry?" "A great hurry," Obi-Wan said. "The Chosen One is not in his quarters." Mace's tone carried both respect and irony, a combination at which he was particularly adept. "I know where he's gone, Master Windu. I found his tools, his workbench." "Not just building droids we don't need." "No, Master," Obi-Wan said. "About the boy," Mace Windu began. "Master, when there is time." "Of course," Mace said. "Find him, then we shall speak, and I want him there to listen." "Of course, Master." Obi-Wan did not disguise his haste. Few could hide concern or intent from Mace Windu. Mace smiled. "He will bring you wisdom," he called out as Obi-Wan ran down the hall toward the temple's sky transport exit. Obi-Wan was not in the least irritated by the jibe. He quite agreed. Wisdom or insanity. It was ridiculous for a Jedi to always be chasing after a troublesome Padawan, but Anakin was no ordinary Padawan. He had been bequeathed to Obi-Wan by Obi-Wan's own beloved master, Qui-Gon Jinn. Yoda had put the situation to Obi-Wan with some style a few months back, as they squatted over a glowing charcoal fire and cooked shewbread and were in his small, low-ceilinged quarters. Yoda had been about to leave Coruscant on business that did not concern Obi-Wan. He had ended a long, contemplative silence by saying,
"A very interesting problem you face. And so we all face Obi-Wan Kenobi?"
Obi-Wan, ever the polite one, had tilted his head as if he were not acquainted with any particular problem.
"The Chosen One Qui-Gon gave to us all, not proven, full of fear, and yours to save. And if you do not save him—"
Yoda's words echoed in Obi-Wan's thoughts as he took an express taxi to the outskirts of the Senate district. Travel time? Mere minutes. Obi-Wan was concerned it would not be nearly fast enough. The pit spread before Anakin as he stepped out on the apron below the tunnel. The three other contestants jostled for a view. The blood carver was particularly rough with Anakin, who had hoped to save all his energy for the flight. What's eating him? The boy wondered. The pit was 2 kilometers wide and 3 deep from the top of the last accelerator shield to the dark bottom. This old maintenance tunnel overlooked the second accelerator shield. Squinting up, Anakin saw the bottom of the first shield, a huge concave roof cut through with an orderly pattern of hundreds of holes like an overturned colander in Shmi's kitchen on Tatooine. Each hole in this colander, however, was 10 meters wide. There were over 5,000 such garbage pits on Coruscant. The city planet produced 1 trillion tons of garbage every hour. Here, waste was sealed into canisters, and the canisters were conveyed along magnetic rails to a huge circular gun carriage below the lowest shield. Every 5 seconds, a volley of canisters was propelled from the gun by chemical charges. The shields then guided the trajectory of the canisters through their holes, gave them an extra tractor field boost, and sent them into tightly controlled orbits around Coruscant. Hour after hour, garbage ships in orbit collected the canisters and transported them to outlying moons for storage. It was a precise and necessary operation, carried out like clockwork, day after day.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?